Hey friends, thanks for joining me again today. It's lovely to spend some time with you. Today I am coloring stamped images and I have a really cool little hack to help you coloring those images. So generally when I use my stamped images, I always buy the coordinating stencil and the coordinating die. But this one here doesn't have a coordinating stencil at all. It does have the die, but no stencils. So I'm going to show you a really cool little tip to be able to get beautiful coloring. So I'm stamping this image up with the limestone ink from Altenew. This is just a really light grey. You're probably not going to see much of it on camera. And I'm doing that so that when I use my inks, I don't smear my inks. So I've got my cardstock in my stamping press and I have a sticky piece of paper behind it, like a sticky grid mat, and I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to leave everything in my stamping positioning tool. But here's the hack. Check this out. This is really cool. I have stamped this image 3 times and I've just cut around the different sections to make my own stencils. So where that washi tape is there, that was my original cut line just to get into that image, and I've just cut around that image. So you just want to be mindful when you're cutting it that it's not so much the image that you want perfectly preserved, it's the outside. So this is the first piece that I cut out because I wanted to color both of those flowers in different colors. That's why I've cut them out twice. So this time I am just using my Distress Oxide inks, and you're going to see here that it does completely cover the image that I've already stamped, but because I've still left my stamp in place, I can stamp over it. So I'm also bringing in a little bit of the yellow here. This is Squeezed Lemonade, just to get that orangey look. And I'm just going to bring in a little bit more pink just to deepen the color a little bit. So this has been a game changer for me. Like I say, if I can buy the coordinating stencils, I'll always buy them. Check it out. It just looks really cool. But if there's no stencils, I now no longer let it put me off buying that stamp that I really love. And these ones here with the big images are perfect for this because they're relatively easy to cut out. So you can see again where that washi tape is. That was the original cut line to get into the image, and I've cut just around it and then popped the washi tape there just to hold it together. So I'm just coming in with some yellow now, again the Squeezed Lemonade. And I'm going to add a little bit of orange as well to that. That was a spiced marmalade, I think, that I ended up adding to it. I did go through a couple of different choices there. So, of course, these stencils aren't going to last you forever. You will need to redo them at some point. But for me, I find that they last for a good probably 4 or 5, I guess, maybe even more, depending on how heavy-handed you are with them. But it's just a really cool little tip that I wanted to share with you today. So you can see it here now starting to come to life. I've just got the leaves left. So this last one I've stamped out again, and I've actually been able to cut the leaves all out of one image. So I keep these in the back of my stamp set now, and then when I want to use this stamp again, I already have my stencils here ready to go. So this is a great little way to inspire you perhaps of going back through some of your stamps that you have there that maybe don't have stencils and breathing a bit of new life into them and getting the most out of them. So I've tried to actually colour this stamp many times by hand, but I just love the look of the ink blending. So this has been really good for me. So I've got a couple of greens here. I'm using the Rustic Wilderness and the Bundled Sage. Just building up my colour. And now I'm just using one of these fine detailed brushes, and I've come back in with the Forest Moss, and I'm just going right in the very edges there just to give it a little bit more depth. But again, you can use any of your inks that you have. I don't use my oxides very much when I colour, so I thought today I'd have a little bit of a play with them. So just smoothing the colour out now. And check it out. So there was a little spot there which I hadn't quite lined up properly, and I'm just popping my stencil over the top, and I'm going to come back in with that fine detail brush and just blend that ink out a little bit so it's not as noticeable. And because I've left everything in my stamping platform, I can now just come back and re-ink this stamp with my Nocturne ink and stamp straight over the top, and it's just going to make everything pop and bring everything to life. So I do like to do this a couple of times as well when I'm using oxides especially. But check it out. You would think that they were just beautiful store-bought stencils, but I hand cut them. So just trying to get a little bit more detail into the center there with those little circly bits. But the colouring looks smooth, it looks seamless, it all works perfectly. Just another little spot that I hadn't quite covered, so I'm just touching that up as well. I'm probably being a little bit fussy. But now I have the coordinating die for this, so I'm going to die cut it. You can see there, perfect colouring almost. Perfect compared to my hand colouring anyway. So here's the die for it. I'm going to run that through my machine, and then I'm going to think about how I'm going to place it on my card. So I've got a 4 1/4 by a 5 1/2 inch card base, and I'm just trying to work my way around the card now just to figure out how I want that to sit. I've decided that I'm just going to have it across the top. So I was going to put it just on a white card panel and then attach it to my base, but I decided that I would attach it straight to my card base. So I'm just penciling it off now so I know where to cut. And it always kind of freaks me out a little bit. I've done all that hard work and now I'm going to cut it up. But it's just paper, right? That's what I keep telling myself. It's just paper and a bit of ink. And I had the fun of colouring it. So trimming it down, and now I'm going to pop that on my card base. But before I popped it on my card base, I thought I would have a bit of a grounding spot for it. So I've pulled out this stencil. This is a stencil that I use all the time. It's from My Favorite Things, and it's just got the cutout in the middle. So I'm just putting it in the middle of my card, and that's going to just give my florals a bit of a grounding spot, I guess, and not leave the background so white. I'm I'm just going to use my oxide inks just because I've used oxides on everything else. This is Bundled Sage. And I'm just going over with a relatively light hand. Just for a little bit of something extra. So my ink blending is all done. I have a nice little spot there to nestle my image on. I'm just going to attach that with some glue. So I've got my little sentiment box here. I kept the sentiment really simple. I had a couple here to choose from. I did end up going with the majority of black because I thought that went with the black stamping. So I'm going to pull out one of these little sentiments from this bag here. This was just a bag of pre-made sentiments that I found, and I've had these in my drawer for, my goodness, it must be at least 10 years. And I found them at the back of the drawer. So I decided that they needed to be used. They've got the rounded corners on, so I am going to snip off the rounded corners just to make it square. I kind of feel like there's nothing else that has rounded corners, so I need to keep it all uniform. I'm going to pop that up with some foam tape just over those flowers there, keeping it kind of all together as a one cluster thing. I have to apologize, I am a little bit off screen here. I was in the zone and I didn't think to check. So my sentiment's done, and I did have that little piece left over. I didn't want to throw it out. So I did kind of push it around the card a bit just to see if I could make it work. And I probably could have, but I actually just liked the flowers at the top with nothing else. So I left them off and I've brought in my embellishments. I've been using these ones for quite a bit now. These are Pink Fresh gemstones. And they're not quite gold. I think they're a champagne colour. I'm just going to stick a few of those down. And then my card is finished for today. So I hope this little technique comes in handy for you. It has been a bit of a game changer for me with all my pretty stamps that I have in my stash that don't have coordinating stencils. If you enjoyed this video, I would love for you to click the like button, consider subscribing. Thank you to all you beautiful people who do subscribe and leave me the most beautiful comments. They are very much appreciated. They brighten my day. I'm going to leave you with a close-up now of my finished card. And until next time, take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.